octopus, maybe Bitcoin someday.
So, whilst I walk over to that side of the room, I have a question. If Google is building these driverless cars, is the future going to be where basically our app will book us a car and it'll turn up and take us where we want to without any need for interacting with a human being?
I mean, theoretically, right now, I guess you can do that with our app, except there is a live driver, right? In Hong Kong, maybe
sometimes.
Maybe you wish you had it.
One more time. The ones that swear are definitely alive.
Be nice. Those are the guys I go drinking with on the weekends.
Yeah. So, no, it's just very interesting, right? Because obviously, if you're talking about the future, they're already building cars that can drive by themselves and take you to destinations.
Sure.
Surely all you're doing is facilitating that transaction, right?
Exactly. Yes. I mean, it's absolutely possible. I mean, again, there's an adoption curve there. There's a ton of regulation there. It will be here. I can't tell you if it's 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, but there will be a time when taxis don't have drivers, in my opinion.
Okay.
Are you guys also thinking of doing like similar to Uber demand-based pricing, where if it's New Year's Eve and everyone's trying to take a taxi, the price goes up so that there's some more drivers that come and get you?
Right. So because taxis are a heavily regulated market, the fares, most markets we couldn't do that if we wanted to. Uber can, because it's very much an unregulated market. It's private cars. It's not regulated by the government. The government considers taxis in most cities as public transportation. So could you add a tip as part of an incentive for a driver to pick you up? Theoretically, you can do that through our app right now. You're in the mid-levels during peak hours, you want to add a $150 Hong Kong tip to improve your chances of getting a taxi, it'll help.
But I think that's an essential part with taxing. It's all about, you've got to bargain, right? If you call the hotline now, $20, right? Brilliant. Negotiation, you learn it in Hong Kong with taxis. So, we had a question up here.
I'm just curious how your company is a taxi profit from this app.
Sure. There's a lot of different channels for us. We do look at advertising partners because of our distribution. So you see a company maybe on the taxis called POAD, right? It's a big marketing agency here. I think they have 1,000 to 1,500 drivers they can work with. We have 6,000 taxis already part of our network. So we can help those taxi drivers sell that space, and it makes more revenue and it cuts out a middleman of the marketing agency. Most markets, we charge either the driver or the passenger or both. We're still evaluating that here in Hong Kong, but most of the time there's a small booking fee on top of the regular taxi fare.
His business model is URL. Ubiquity first, revenue later.
Yeah.
Right?
Scale.
It's the rocket model. Get out there, sell yourself. Next one.
What are your tactics, especially in the marketing for the countries, for the developing countries, where especially the taxi drivers cannot really afford smartphones, and people, the smartphones not the high-end smartphones are available in the majority of the population?
Right, so I'm actually going to India next week because we're going to be launching there and addressing this, but we've done it in the Philippines and Vietnam, and it really is a localized solution. So sometimes we microfinance the phones for them, sometimes we negotiate discounts with OEMs. It really depends, but most of the OEMs actually do things on a regional scale. So Samsung, we have partnerships in certain countries. We're in discussions with a couple other really big providers to do more of a global deal. But really the best solution is to convince the driver that they can make more income in these countries because they're getting more rides. And that's the truth. Our drivers get about 25% more. So they pay off these phones that are roughly 50, 60 euros in a matter of 30 days. So they need to be invested in the market as well, because if we just hand it to them, they just take advantage of the system. They need to feel part of it.
Does your system run through SMS? Could it run through SMS for the developing countries? Does it have to be smartphone based?
It doesn't have to be, but we've chosen to go down that route because of the adoption of the connected devices that we're seeing. We are not afforded the luxury at this juncture to jump in at the right point in the adoption curve for smartphones in all countries. Our technology is not so sophisticated from a back-end standpoint because it's GPS based. So we made the decision to go in regardless if the country is fully adopted. Hong Kong, Singapore, 92% adoption or smartphone penetration. So this is something that we're not waiting on.
The company that owns you is very well known for implementing businesses. I think we've got, given some of the audience here who are doing this MBA stuff, tell us a little bit about the execution part, because I deal with internet startups day in, day out, and the amount of dreamers that come out and say, I've got this idea, they start it, they're in a room, nothing happens, right? They get a nice website. Tell us how important, or an app, tell us how important it is, this implementation side, because when you show that kind of global map, it's pretty spectacular that business can go around the world so incredibly quickly. Is that because you've got lots of money in your pocket, or is it because you're aggressive? What makes it happen so fast?
Well, I'd be lying if I said it didn't help that we're funded.
Yeah.
That being said, we're not funded to the tune of Uber in 240 million. I very much run Hong Kong and the other markets I oversee like small startups.
Yeah.
And my incubator expects that I deliver as if I'm my own entity with the minimal amount of funding that they're giving us. Hence, if you are going to think of being an entrepreneur, it is all about execution. Ideas and strategy almost go out the window because in a tech market, the market changes tomorrow. So I've got actually Varun is working with me right now, and I've got a couple other MBAs as well. And I said, look, strategy is important. You need to know where you're going, but spend 10% of your time thinking about where you're going, and then get there and figure out if it works or it doesn't work. Because you don't know if your strategy is good until you try to implement it, and you just don't want to make a strategy that puts your business under. So think of it like a science experiment, and you do lots and lots of little tests very, very quickly, and then once you figure out the magic formula, you move really quickly behind that.
That's interesting, because I think in the software industry, it's all gone to agile as well, right? You develop and you test it, you develop, you test it. And the wonderful word pivot has come up in the startup world, which means try it, doesn't work, try something else, try again, right?
Yeah.
So, one last question.
So my biggest concern about such kind of apps is the safety problem. So the driver have to check their phones from time to time to see where the appointments are made. So what do you think of such problems?
Right. That's especially come up in Hong Kong recently. It's been in all the papers about how these drivers have 10, 15 phones. I mean, it's really, I've never seen anything like it. I wish I could take 14 of them with me in my suitcase to India next week and give them to drivers, But we are going to build in all voice automated things. Most of them do have Bluetooth. They'll be able to accept it, with a click on their Bluetooth or just a verbal command. So this is something that we're proactively pursuing very, very aggressively, because one of our big value propositions is safety. We always know where our taxis are. We verify our taxi drivers. We have their license number. You get to see their picture, all of these things. So safety is a really big component, and we need to be proactive on these type of things, especially in Hong Kong. It's terrifying to be in a taxi sometimes.
Yeah, but that's because they've gone into business with Steve. They're doing Slicify on those 10 other ones. Right, they're making money on the side. Excellent. Round of applause, thank you. All right, now prepare yourselves, because this is the future and it's about to hit you in the face. All the non-techies are going because they're scared of drones. We're going to have this, and then we'll have a little panel at the end that Varun's going to MC. I'll stand down. So Patrick is a very interesting character. He is famous. Can I say this? He's famous for being one of the largest, most successful BlackBerry app developers. His company, set up here in Hong Kong in China, has got, 45,000 apps on BlackBerry, whatever it is, in market.
48,000.
Sorry, 48,000, and going up. So this man has been through the hoops with business in terms of technology, and I think you will find this very fascinating. How dare you? I was invited to his office to see the prototype of this gadget, and I have to say, it looks a hell of a lot sexier than it did when I first saw it. Some of this was built using a 3D printer, correct? Patrick?
Yes.
Amazing. So we've got a product that has been built with a 3D printer, imagined in Seoul, just not far from here, by a German who used to live in China. The world's global. Over to you, man.
All right, welcome. I hope you're all still awake. It's Friday evening. Napoleon mentioned I'm German, so I should have had my beer already. So I brought a little bit with me for you to actually take a look at. I'm going to show a short video in the beginning. You're going to see a couple of drones flying. Can you press the play button? Maybe? Yay. Okay, great. So you're going to see a couple of drones flying. I have one here, which is a little bit bigger than the ones in the video. I want to pass it around so you can actually take it in your hand and take a look at it. It's a very kind of test unit that we use. No worries, it's not going to go off. There's no battery on there. So you can actually take a look at it. All right, so let's get a video started. I'm going to switch off that mic. This was done at University of Pennsylvania. And the audio is important. Does the mic work? Yes. So that was done in 2012, 2 years ago from now, like we're 2014 right now, in the US, and all these small micro drones that you're seeing were flying autonomously, but they were centrally controlled in a controlled environment. All right, so why am I talking to you? I studied computer science in Germany, so I'm not as good a speaker as Napoleon, right? So bear with me, last half an hour here. I started a couple of companies, and most recently, we started the Skydrone project in 2012. So in order to look at drones, you have to understand a little bit where they come from. So traditionally, drones were very much in the military space. And when you're in the industry, you actually don't really speak of drones. It just sounds cool for normal people. We call it unmanned aerial vehicle or unmanned aerial systems, which it kind of sounds weird if you say UAV all the time. And those people using acronyms all the time that you don't understand is pretty insulting sometimes. So the first use of drones can actually be dated back to the 1800s, where the Austrians were at war with Venice, and they put small bombs on balloons and sent it over to Venice and hoped they would crash at the right spot. Since then, there's been a lot of development, and obviously since the 1950s and the jet engine and all these technological advancements, drones have been very much in the focus of the military, and everyone wanted to use them, because having humans in an airplane, causes some trouble sometimes, especially when they have to do in military situations, have to do hard choices, have to make hard choices. Apparently, one of the first times drones were used in the battlefield was 1981. In South Africa, they had some problem with their neighbor. And since then, it's been growing rapidly. That was a good one. All right, so drones today. Actually, that's exactly where it comes from, right? Why are drones getting more and more popular in the last 5-6 years? It's basically smartphones. Smartphones and the technology that has been come out of all that area is exactly what's built into drones. I mean, you have a smartphone, you have a GPS inside, you can communicate with people, you can call, you can send data, you can send text messages and receive them.
It's dates, they're all being asked out on dates.
Yeah, well, it's Friday afternoon, evening, right? So basically, drones have exactly the same stuff built in. The drone's here right now, so if you take a look at it, there's not really much onto it, right? There's a couple of motors, there's some rotor blades, and this drone on the side here is actually, it's a quadcopter because it has 4 rotors, 4 engines. It's a test unit from our office. There's a little bit of controller unit inside that is basically just a small microcontroller. It doesn't mean anything. It basically means that matured electronics are required for that, and they have to be small enough to fit on a drone and fly around. So besides these quadcopters that are very common, and the small one here I'm passing around is one, there are a couple of other ones as well. One of the biggest companies in the kind of small scale, commercial and private use of drones is 3D Robotics. It's an American company. They got a couple of $1 million in venture funding. They sell drones, they sell quad